This is the Barbados Today evening news for Thursday, April 12. Thank you for joining us. I am Mary Claire Williams. Our top story this evening, an historic court ruling in Trinidad and Tobago today that could have implications for Barbados and the rest of the Caribbean. The High Court in Port of Spain has ruled that it is unconstitutional to impede the rights of homosexual men. And this was the scene outside the court this morning, with members of the LGBT community celebrating the ruling, chanting, "Love is love." The challenge was brought against the state by gay rights activist Jason Jones in 2017. The court will make a final ruling in 3 months. The matter was brought to repeal the sections 13 and 16 of the Sexual Offences Act, which criminalizes buggery and serious indecency even between consenting adults. Jones claimed that the long-standing legislation contravenes his constitutional rights to privacy and freedom of thought and expression. He said it is also in direct contradiction to the country's international human rights obligations. Meanwhile, the Barbados Gays, Lesbians and All Sexuals Against Discrimination has hailed the ruling. Be Glad Squad Director Rohan Mohammed says the case signifies a necessary step in the decolonization of independent Caribbean territories. She noted that similar laws exist in Barbados which criminalize consenting acts of love between autonomous adults were left behind as a relic of colonialism. She added that the British themselves removed those laws in 1967 and they have no place in the Caribbean. In other news this evening, political scientist Peter Wickham is backing the selection of DLP General Secretary George Pilgrim as the candidate for St. John in the upcoming election. This after MP Mara Thompson formally stepped down last evening at a General Council meeting of the DLP. Thompson succeeded her late husband, the former Prime Minister David Thompson, as MP for that constituency following his death in 2010. Thompson endorsed Pilgrim, saying he has been working on behalf of the constituency for many years. Wickham told Barbados Today it was a good choice.
Yes, George is closer to the party and really has been closer to the Prime Minister. If you think about it, George was part of the David Thompson team, and he would have worked with Mara. I think suffice to say that George was a de facto representative up there for a while, and people in St. John know that. So it's not surprising. I would say that George has been the least controversial choice in terms of what was on the table. I know McLean's his gravitas in the area, and it goes back a long time, but the fact is that McLean had greater relevance to St. John in 1987, and I don't know that that's still the case. I think it's as good a choice as any, but let me just say that St. John, the Democratic Labour Party, had some problems in St. John that they have to rectify. And I don't know that just fixing it, just putting George will necessarily fix it. I think that they have some other major issues in St. John that they have to rectify. They have issues nationally, that they have to deal with. So, as I said, St. John is also the way, but I still think that there's some major national issues that have to be addressed, such as the fact that, we're still waiting on this election. So, well done to George, and I think we now need to move on to the major issue, which is whether we're going to have the election, and, what is the reason that it's taking the DLP this long to call it.
Another DLP stronghold has been called into question in light of the illness of Christchurch East MP Dennis Lowe. But Wickham is also supporting the calls from party spokesman Robert Bobby Morris to stick with Lowe at this time.
I'm going basing my argument or my opinion on what Bobby Morris said. Bobby Morris is apparently a spokesman for the Democratic Labour Party at this time. And if he says that Lowe will run, then Lowe will run. And I believe that the matter of candidacy up there is one would like to think that with an election overdue, that the DLP would have made a decision on Lowe's future, now or ever, but he certainly will run. It's not the first time in the Caribbean. When the last election in 2014 in Antigua was held, you might recall that former Prime Minister Lester Bird was quite ill during the course of the campaign and hardly showed his face. And he won his seat notwithstanding. So it's not entirely impossible that the electorate can excuse a candidate for not being on the campaign trail because the person is unwell. And maybe this is what the Prime Minister assumes will happen here. So his illness or whatever, as long as the illness is temporary, I don't believe beneficial impact on his being a candidate, and certainly Mr. Bobby Morris has indicated that he will be a candidate. So as far as I'm concerned, the candidate is settled.
One expert in disaster risk management is recommending that the University of the West Indies start investing in resilience measures instead of continuing to adopt a reactionary position. The suggestion came this morning from the advisor in disaster resilience of the Office of the Vice-Chancellor, Jeremy Collymore. He was addressing the Vice-Chancellor's Forum on Resilience and Practice and Thinking at the Caville campus. Collymore contended that the university must start drawing up a strategic framework that runs up to the year 2030. Following the devastation caused by last year's hurricanes, the former CDMA head said that the University of the West Indies needs to have a strong system that supports resilience.
This means that we have now to mainstream the issue of performance considerations into the organizational culture and its management structure and reporting processes, supported by outreach initiatives such as this. But as small institutions and small resource economies, collaboration is important. And that's why we are suggesting that it's important for the Association of Caribbean Tertiary Institutions to be a key partner in this conversation in promoting this idea of resilient universities, helping to build resilient communities.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
Thank you for staying with us. We're back with news from the region. St. Lucia has begun returning prisoners to the Turks and Caicos Islands and the British Virgin Islands who were transferred to Castries following last year's hurricanes. The National Security Minister, Herman Gill Francis, today announced that one of the 24 inmates being held at the Border Lake Correctional Facility has been repatriated. He said Castries will be reimbursed the cost of housing the inmates. On the international scene, U.S. President Donald Trump and his national security aides have been weighing their options on Syria. This after Trump threatened missile strikes in response to a suspected poison gas attack, as a Russian envoy voiced fears of a wider conflict between Washington and Moscow. We get the details in this Reuters report.
Defense Secretary James Mattis on Thursday worked to calm global fears of a direct military clash between the U.S. and Russia over Syria.
We have not yet made any decision to launch military attacks into Syria.
Those remarks to a House panel contradicting President Trump, who Wednesday told Russia U.S. missiles, quote, will be coming in response to last weekend's suspected chemical attack in Syria. This after Russia said U.S. missiles aimed at close ally Syria would be shot down.
We're having a number of meetings today. We'll see what happens. We're obviously looking at that very closely.
On Thursday, Trump took a half step back, saying U.S. action, quote, may not be soon. But as his National Security Council convened Thursday, the risks on all sides remained high. Russia, Syria's staunch ally, has military equipment and forces arrayed throughout much of Syria, which could be hit by a U.S. strike. Media reports say Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has tried to shelter his own jets by moving them to hangars alongside Russian aircraft. The U.S. has its own Navy forces in the area, including the missile-firing destroyer Donald Cook, with about 2,000 U.S. troops also in Syria fighting Islamic State. And unlike the U.S. strike in Syria last year after a similar gas attack, U.S. allies Britain and France seem ready to join in. Military experts have suggested any retaliation for the gas attack could this time be sustained over days, further raising the chances of a larger confrontation.
And that takes us to the end of the news this evening. Remember, you can get more on our website, www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook. We're on Izumi Media in bus terminals and on Screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also find us on Mix 96.9 FM. I am Marie Claire Williams. Good evening.